What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be doing a small modification to my 2019 Ford F250. And what we're going to be doing is adding a front bumper spacer kit. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's get it done. Okay, so as I just mentioned, this is my 2019 Ford F250. So before we jump into installing the front bumper spacer kit, let's talk about why I want to install it first. Now, I am currently running a ReadyLift 3.5-inch SST lift kit on this truck. So when I originally bought these American Force 24x12 wheels, I bought them used on Marketplace. They came with new 35-inch tires, which were fine. They looked pretty good, but they really didn't give me the look I was going for. So I wanted just a little bit more sidewall, which also creates more of a cushion when you're driving on the road. So I went ahead and bought these brand new 37 by 13.5-inch wide tires. Now to fit them, I did do a little bit of trimming. I had to trim off a little bit right here. And then I did trim a little bit of the front bumper over here and the front valence a little bit. Now I can trim a little bit more if I wanted to, but I'm starting to get into the brackets up here. So I really don't want to trim a whole lot more. But as you can see, I'm getting real close down here, about a finger's width. But again, these are pretty beefy, brand new mud tires. The lugs are pretty big. So instead of me chopping up the bumper even further, I figured I would just throw a front bumper spacer kit, which is basically just spacer blocks that you have to come down here and probably take this panel off, just like that. Expose these 4 bolts here on both sides. There should be 4 over here as well. Okay, all I have to do is take those 4 bolts out, take those 4 bolts out, and then the goal is to pull the bumper forward just enough to where it doesn't fall off, but pull the bumper forward just enough to where I could slide the spacers up behind it and then install new longer bolts. And then that should take the whole bumper assembly and pull it forward a little bit. Now, yes, the back of this bumper is no longer going to line up with the fender right here. It's probably going to be shifted forward about 1 inch, give or take. So it will be slightly off, but I will have a lot more wheel clearance. Now, on the opposite side over here, you'll see how much space I have on the back, which I'm still pretty good. I probably have about almost 2 fingers worth over there. So I might only have to trim a little bit more there, but not a lot. But I figured to get a little bit more clearance on the front bumper and to give myself a little bit more peace of mind that under extreme tight turns and maybe a little bit of compression of the truck going around corners and so forth, a bumper spacer kit should give me a little bit more room to work with. This is the spacer kit I just picked up. Should be pretty simple. Okay, this is basically what the kit consists of. So you have your main spacer blocks right here, right about 3/4 of an inch, maybe slightly more, but again, about 3/4 of an inch, give or take. So once you stick these behind your bumper, they are going to space your bumper forward. So the kit comes with new hardware bolts here. So that's pretty much all it is. So let me start working on that and I'll be right back with an update. Okay, so right now I'm on the front passenger side of the truck, and the first thing we need to do is remove those 2 bolts right there that holds the bumper to the frame up here, and then you're going to take the same 2 bolts out on the driver's side. If you happen to have any harnesses back here that are plugged into your fog lights or like a grid heater or anything like that, you'll want to try to reach under there and unplug that as well. And the reason for doing that is if you're going to completely remove the bumper, put the spacers on and put the bumper back on, you're going to need to disconnect those harnesses. However, I'm just going to take out the 2 bolts here on the passenger side and then the 2 bolts in the same location on the driver's side. And then I'm going to start working on the bolts in the front. I'm not going to completely remove all the bolts. I'm going to start with one side at a time, and then I'll loosen the bolts on the other side so that I can try to pull the bumper out just enough to slide my spacers in and then shove the bumper back on without needing to disconnect any wires. So let me start working on these bolts right here. So let's get in here. Okay, there's one. I just grabbed a little stubby socket there. It seems to work a little better here in these tight spots. Okay. All right, there you go. So let me go ahead and take the bolts out on the other side, and then we'll start working on the front bolts here in a minute. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I took the 2 bolts out from the passenger side and the 2 bolts out on the driver's side. Then I went ahead and took the 4 bolts out on the passenger side, which look like this. You'll have these bolts here with these flange nuts on the back like that. And I did loosen these bolts, but I didn't take them out. I just loosened them. Because if we come under here, because right behind this bracket right here, up against back here where my finger is, that's where we're sliding our spacers. So we're gonna slide our spacers in there, and then we're just gonna be using our new hardware, which is a little bit longer, to come through the front, through the spacer, and back here, and then we're going to reuse our flange nuts like this on the back. So again, right now, the driver's side is still hooked up. It's just loosened a little bit, but I think I'll have enough space to wiggle this forward to get my spacers behind there without taking the whole bumper off. So let me start doing that real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so far so good. So we went ahead and we got our spacer slid in on both sides. All right, there's my spacer on the right side. There's my spacer on the left side. And again, this is the passenger side over here. We put the new hardware in the front over here. Again, you're going to have 8 of the thicker bolts with lock washers and washers. And you're going to reuse your flange nut in the back. So I got that hooked up. Then I came over right behind it, and here is where I put my block with the new hardware with, again, a lock washer and a washer. So you're gonna have a smaller block and 2 smaller bolts here, and you're gonna have the larger blocks with the 4 larger bolts up here using the factory flange nut hardware on the back. And right now, if you come over here, I still have that all mounted in. You can loosen those bolts and mount all of your blocks on one side at a time without removing your bumper. So now all I have to do is come over here, and I've already taken out the bolts from the back side over here, but up here, I just have to take out those 4 bolts, slide in my spacers, put my new hardware in, tighten everything down, and then make any final adjustments to level off the bumper at the very end. So let me go ahead and finish up the driver's side, and we'll be right back with an update. Okay, so I went ahead and I got the spacers and the hardware installed on the driver's side now. So all of the spacers and all of the hardware are installed on the passenger side and the driver's side. And as you see over here, we got the new spacer in down right over here, and the spacers are behind the bumper, and I got the hardware installed. Then the easiest thing to do is take a jack, maybe with a block, and get up under the bumper from underneath. Just make sure there's no wiring harnesses in the way or anything like that, because you want to use your jack to jack up the bumper a little bit, because if you're doing this by yourself, it's going to be hard to lift the bumper up and bolt down your bolts at the same time. So what I'm doing is I just jacked up my bumper a little bit to get the bumper up a little bit higher to close these gaps a little bit more over here on the sides. I still have to make a couple minor adjustments, because if you look over here, this side here is about a finger thickness width right here. If I come on the driver's side, it's not quite a finger width. So I just have to adjust the driver's side down just a little bit and then tighten my bolts in on the back, and then adjust the passenger side over there, adjust my bolts in the back, and then I just need to make sure the bumper is level side to side and relatively level front to back, and then I'll just go ahead and tighten down my front bolts. So again, all I'm using is a jack, and then I have a little level over here I'm gonna use to try to get this bumper as level as I can, and then just tighten down the hardware, and then we should be good. So let me start working on that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're all done. So we went ahead and we installed the new front bumper spacer kit. And again, those spacers are about 3/4 of an inch thick. So this kit is realistically only pushing your bumper forward around 3/4 of an inch, give or take. But as you can see here, looking at the side now, you can see the front bumper is no longer sitting back here in line with this body line here. And if you see here with my wheel turned all the way to the right like we did before, you could see, remember before I had about 1 finger worth of width between the lugs and the frame of the bumper up here. Now I have about 2. So I definitely gained about 3/4 of an inch up front, and now I have more clearance for my 37-inch tires. Okay, so I just went ahead and straightened my wheel back up so you could see a little bit better. But as you can see now I have plenty of clearance in the front and the back on these 24x12 American Force wheels and 37x13.5 wide tires. And as you can see right here, these are pretty aggressive lugs, and it does have an aggressive sidewall on the side over here. But again, with this 3.5-inch leveling kit on the front and doing a little trimming in the back and just a little bit of trimming here on the front bumper and using the bumper spacer kit, I now have plenty of clearance in the front, and I don't have to worry about these wheels rubbing or grabbing anything up front when under tight turns. Because again, I know a lot of you out there are okay with a little bit of rubbing, but it depends on what you're rubbing. Because if your tires are just rubbing some of the fender liner in there, not that big of a deal. But if your lugs are grabbing some type of metal frame or something sharp on the front bumper and they're just barely rubbing right now, if you go under a tight turn with a little bit of compression and those lugs grab something sharp, it could literally tear a big chunk of your lug out and cause a lot of problems with your tires. And let's face it, these tires are not cheap. So you want to try to take care of them and make them last as long as you can. But at the end of the day, the new bumper spacer kit was super easy to install. I did not have to take the whole bumper off. Everything's level, everything's looking good. And honestly, from a distance at, let's say, maybe 4 or 5 feet away, you can't even tell there's a bumper spacer kit installed. It's only when you really get right up on it on the side, close enough to see that the edge of this bumper is offset from the edge of your fender. But just looking at it from afar, you really can't tell. But this spacer kit is awesome. It pulled my bumper forward just enough to give me more clearance on my tires, and I'm super happy with it. So there you go, everybody. We went ahead and we installed the 3/4 inch front bumper spacer kit on my 2019 F250, and it was super simple and easy. It probably only took me about 10 to 15 minutes to do. It's not that hard, and it does make a big difference. So if any of you are out there running larger wheels and larger tires, and you need just a little bit more clearance at your front bumper so that your front bumper brackets are not grabbing your tires, I definitely recommend checking out a front bumper spacer kit, because again, it's barely noticeable, but it does make a big difference in giving you more clearance for larger tires. But this kit comes with everything you need, and it works great and it looks great. So my overall impressions of this bumper spacer kit, I definitely give it a thumbs up and give it a go. If you're interested, I'll put a link in the description box of this video if you want to check it out for yourself. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section and I'll get back to you when I can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.